maybe a few people coming in, but in the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I do want to be sure you can hear me. Okay. I will project, and I guess that goes for everyone who comes up then also, right? So please know we do understand that some of you may have other things to do this morning and may leave during the hearing, and that others may be coming in. So there may be some noise. And for those on the phone, we do have a phone up here. It's a listening line only. So there is a microphone up here for the phone, and there's one that we are recording the proceedings on. So I will go ahead and start with the formal proceedings as people continue to come in. Let the record show that I am Duca Disney Spencer, designated facilitator for this public hearing by the Administrator of the Division of Public Health in the Department of Health and Welfare. It is 9:01 a.m. on Friday, September 20th, 2019. We are in the large conference room of the Region 1 office in Kootenai, Idaho, and this is the time and place set to receive oral and written comments as provided for in Section 65-5222 Idaho Code for the proposed rulemaking under IDAPA 16.02.08 Vital Statistics Rules, found in docket number 16-0208-1901. The purpose of this proceeding is to gather facts, views, and arguments from all interested persons relative to the proposed rules so that they may receive consideration by the Department of Health and Welfare. I will accept written statements or documents today if relevant and signed by the persons presenting them. The material will be included as exhibits in the record for this hearing, which I will submit to the Administrative Rules Unit following the close of this hearing. Let the record show that the notice of this hearing was published in the Idaho Administrative Bulletin on Wednesday, July 3rd, 2019, as required by Section 67-5221 Idaho Code. This publication was timely made and other necessary notice requirements have been met. This public hearing is an informal proceeding. There is no right to cross-examine a person offering comments, nor is there a right to counsel or subpoena. No objections or procedures of a technically legal nature will be accepted. As the facilitator, I am the sole regulator of the course of the presentations, including, but not limited to, a determination that the comments are outside the scope of the rule or that comments are unduly repetitious. I am not here to answer questions or to explain any part of the proposed rules. If you have questions or concerns during this rulemaking, please contact Elke Shaw Tulloch at 208-334-5950. All those interested persons attending this proceeding are asked to sign in on the roster by the entrance, indicating a desire, if any, to make an oral presentation. After a brief statement made by the Department of Health and Welfare summarizing the information upon which the proposed action is based, each person will be given an opportunity to speak at least once prior to any person being heard a second time. If the public attendance is high, as it certainly seems to be, and time does not permit a second testimonies, the facilitator will limit the testimonies to one testimony per person. But as stated earlier, we will accept written testimony also, and we have pens and paper on which to do that. At this time, the Department of Health and Welfare statement will be read into the record, followed by the opportunity for oral comments. There have been two rules in place relating to gender change since early 2018. The first rule was implemented in 2018 in response to a federal court order that required the Department of Health and Welfare to allow people to change their gender on a birth certificate. This rule was in effect as of April 6, 2018, and remains in effect. The second rule, the rule pertaining to today's public meeting, requires that those who want to change the gender on a minor's birth certificate, those under the age of 18, that they must submit a letter from a medical or mental health professional confirming the gender change request is consistent with the gender the minor identifies with. This document is called an attestation. The second rule is currently a temporary rule and is in the process of public comment. Following a series of public hearings this month, the rule will be presented for legislative review during the next legislative session, starting in January of 2020. Accordingly, today's hearing provides members of the public with an opportunity to provide comments regarding docket number 16-0208-1901, the medical attestation rule for minors. We ask that everyone adhere to a set of ground rules established to ensure a smooth and orderly process for hearing from everyone wishing to present today. The ground rules are as follows. Number 1, remain respectful of everyone, including those testifying with opinions or perspectives with which you may disagree, by not interrupting testimonies or expressing disruptive verbal displays of agreement or disagreement after testimonies. Number 2, please do not applaud any speaker's comments, as this will limit the number of verbal comments that we will have time to hear. Number 3, please turn cell phones off or to the vibrate mode during the hearing to avoid distracting others that may be testifying. And if you do need to take a call, please step outside to take or make personal phone calls. Members of the public testifying will need to keep their testimonies to a maximum length of 2 minutes. This time limit will be strictly enforced by the meeting facilitators to ensure that as many people can provide testimony as possible. And number 5, keep comments relevant to the rule at hand, the medical attestation rule for minors. Lastly, due to the time frame allotted to receive public comments, we also have the paper forms available for members of the public to submit written comments, which hold the same weight as verbal comments. This concludes the department's statement. So next, I want to let you know that Ryan in the back, who is at the registration table, for those of you who come up to speak, he will be holding up a 1 minute left sign and then a 30 seconds left sign. So unfortunately, he's tall, so you can see him over everything. He will call out the names and he will do the best he can. Some of them are a little difficult to read, so we apologize in advance for that. But we will go through everyone who indicated on the roster that they wish to make public comments first. We will then go and we will ask if anyone else wishes to make public comments. There were quite a few who put a question mark. So, and we also will provide the forms for written comments, and we have a whole bunch of pens we can give people. I also, at this point, want to point out, I mentioned that we are recording this. We have a voice-only recording for the public record. I do want to let you know that a couple of people are doing video recordings here as well. I want to let you know if you are uncomfortable with that you can provide us with your written comments, and that will take the same length. But I just want to know that it is being video recorded, and I'm not sure of the affiliation or what's going to be done with those recordings. Because these are being recorded, I will ask that all speakers come to the front. And as you can see, we don't have a microphone. People will need to project. Since it is being recorded for the record, please state your name and spell your surname. That will help us make sure that we have properly recorded in all of the comments. Let's see. I think that concludes all of my comments. We are now ready to open the hearings and begin taking testimony. So the time is now 9:10 a.m. and we're ready to start with our first speaker. Ryan?
Rick Whitehead.
Up here.
Yes, thank you, please, sir. Thank you.
My name is Rick Whitehead, W-H-I-T-E-H-E-A-D. I've been a resident of Idaho since 2011. I fled Texas, this nonsense in Austin, Texas in 2010. In regards to genders, the Bible specifies there are two. Our DNA specifies there's only two, and if there's still any doubt, you just merely need to look down. I am embarrassed for the state of Idaho that we are expending any budget resources on this discussion at all. Budget dollars are way too tight to be wasting our time on determining something that, regardless of our opinion, is irrechangeable. So I resoundingly say no. And any parent, since this is in reference to children, any parent having anything to do with these adjustments or changes is child abuse.
Yes.
But to close, if it's as simple as self-identifying, then as right now I self-identify as the governor and this meeting's closed.
Beverly Gannett.
Beverly Gannett, G-U-E-N-E-T-T-E, and I'm a resident of Coeur d'Alene. And I just feel that biology and science dictates that there's only a male and a female, whether you're old, young, or whatever. And like Rick, today I identify as 50 pounds less, so I'm skinny. That's all I have.
We've got Mike Loudy.
I'll defer for now.
Okay. Jerry H.
Hildeman?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
My name is Jerry Hildeman, Hildeman. I agree with that man right there, that lady right there. We're the male and a female. We're not earthworms. Okay? God made us this way. It's the way it should stay. A question like this being brought up here in the state of Idaho is totally embarrassing to me, and it's unjustifiable to even bring this forward. The people that bring this forward are people that are trying to destroy this country, divide it, and change it, and put deception among us. The Bible teaches us who is the leader of deception. That's the devil. I don't want the devil living in my household. I don't want him running my kids. And I hope and I pray that you guys, people of this state, say no to this garbage and make sure that it is put to the point where it is no, we do not want it. And the people that are running this state better understand we the people say no.
You're here.
Thank you.
Grace Bauer.
Hello, my name is Grace Bauer, B-A-U-E-R. I live in the city of Kootenai in Bonner County. And I'm here today. I have a little bit of a different take on things. I do believe with the previous speakers that God created a man and a woman. But there, if you guys have heard of the medical condition hermaphrodite or intersex, when a baby is born with both genitalia, I can see this rule letting them grow up to be an adult and then decide what they're going to become. That, in my opinion, is the only reason that for an allowance for to choose a different gender. Being born a woman and identifying as a man, or being born a man and identifying as a woman, and changing that on a document, in my opinion, is fraud. This just really bothers me. I've extensively researched gender transformation and with children, and when a young male has a surgery, has the bottom surgery, they invert the penis, and if it's not long enough, they take the colon and they extend it, and that's a surgery that can never be undone. And just because you identify as one thing over another doesn't mean that that you should be able to do fraud on your documents. So I would like for this rule to be taken away, and for people, like this lady said up here, identify as 50 pounds less. If we can change our gender on our birth certificate, can we change the year we were born, or the race we are? And so there's so many problems with this, and we're opening up a Pandora's box and going down a slippery slope. So thank you.
Jonah, Plant? Jonah?
Hi, my name's Jonna Plant, Plante. I'm confused why there wasn't the rights to negotiate rulemaking on the April 2018 change. Our rights to decide the laws of Idaho are being removed if decisions like these are being decided by district courts and not heard by the majority of the people who live here, and not allowing elected officials to weigh in. I'm concerned that our state will be changed and manipulated to be politically correct, and to bow down to an extremely small percentage of people who have feelings that their biological factors, their chromosomes, and their genitalia they were born with. Facts will always remain. Males have an X and Y chromosome, and a female have 2 X chromosomes. And these are facts that should be a permanent part of our record, and legal documents that should not be able to be changed due to an opinion or feelings a person has. Legal documents are not to be based on feelings, but are based on facts and truth. It is absolutely impossible to change the chromosomes of a male or a female, so why would we allow it to be changed on legal documents? It doesn't matter how much a man or a woman favors something from the opposite sex and feels more at home or comfortable in what society may claim to be more male or female. It's the proof of biological makeup, the genitalia, and the chromosomes of a person that makes them male or female, and that's the truth we need to document on legal documentation. And allowing the change will destroy the fabric of our society. Where someone can change it, a legal document is on a feeling is ludicrous.
Rob Behrens? Okay. Summer Bushnell?
My name's Summer Bushnell, Bushnell. I just feel that this ruling is a Band-Aid. It's not solving the actual issue. And I'd just like to read a little bit of something I found that expresses my opinion. I believe that transgenderism is psychological, intersex is biological, and transgenderism is ideological. I do believe that transgender individuals deserve our love, support, and compassion, as do all valuable human beings made in the image of God. They need prayers. I feel like it's a this issue, not down there issue. The one study found that 41% of people who identify as transgender will attempt suicide at some point in their life, compared with 4.6% of the general population. I do know that with youth, the suicide rate's going up, and that's what concerns me. This isn't going to fix that rate. And the other thing that I thought was interesting is a lot of people say, well, it's a hostile or a bigoted society. Well, in one study, even cultures like in Sweden that are more accepting of people being transgender, they still have the same suicide rate. So I don't think this ruling is good because it doesn't fix the actual deep core issue. It just puts a Band-Aid over it. Thank you.
Leslie Duncan. Elizabeth Hunt.
I'll defer right now.
Krista Duncan.
Krista Duncan, D-U-N-C-A-N. If you want to identify as a different gender, that's fine, but I think changing it on your birth certificate is a different story, because at the top of your birth certificate it says this is a certification of vital record, and at the bottom it says any altercations or voids, or any altercations or erasure voids the certificate, and I think that it would be falsifying a document to change it. So that's for children, especially because I don't think they're fully developed and know exactly what they want to be or what they're deciding to be. I think that they can dress however they want, but I definitely think that they should wait until their brain is fully developed and ready to make an actual decision. And I don't think it should be able to be changed on your birth certificate, since it's a certificate of who you were when you were born instead of who you are now. So I am against changing birth certificates.
Good job.
Karen States.
My name is Karen States, S-T-A-T-E-S, and I just wanted to say that at this point I agree with what everyone before me has said. The only thing I wanted to add is that in some of the studies that I've been reading, they have shown that children, minors who are questioning their identity, if they're left alone to grow up and not pushed into changing their gender, 80% of them remain what they were born and do fine. Those who do change, their suicide rates are higher than their peers.
Catherine Maza.
I'm Katie Mazza, M-A-Z-Z-A. The point that I would like to make is that this introduces confusion. When a society does not know who they are at the basic point of gender identification, it reduces the fabric and the stability of that people. And this, in my view, is part of an overall destabilization of the society, to the point where if this continues, there will be a very, very shaky foundation. And anybody who knows anything about construction knows that you need a very strong and stable foundation to have anything that's going to be last in the long view. One other thing that I will add, it doesn't stop with male or female. I've come across young teenagers who have said, I don't want to be either. You're going to call me an it. It doesn't stop. The problem is real, and legislation, I do not believe, is the answer. The answer lies in the heart of a person and the heart of society. And there are answers to these questions, but I do not believe legislation like this is the answer.
Norma White.
Norma White. I am from Idaho here. I didn't realize we were speaking to the minor issue, but what I have to say does speak to the minors as well, and it's even more important because this is an issue of children, and no one should be making these kind of decisions for them, and I agree with the previous people. But let me tell you why it is problematic to change birth certificates in the first place. For one, it will hinder law enforcement investigations. Number two, it will hinder provision of medical care. There's a recent case of a woman who identified as a man. She went to a hospital for a medical emergency and was treated as a man. Turns out she was pregnant, and her child died because of her misrepresentation of her sex and the hospital staff conforming to her stated identity rather than observable facts. Conforming administrative rules which have the force of law to a person's state of mind or emotion regarding a matter, which can and often does change over time, undermines the validity of the state's vital statistics collection and documentation, and actually perpetuates a lie in every case except for those for whom there is an actual, verifiable, unchanging chromosomal anatomy affecting their sexuality. At its core, this rule represents social engineering, conforming state regulations to a political agenda bent upon transforming societal norms that have successfully guided human society for millennia, will wreak cultural and psychological instability and ultimately destruction upon that society. The state of Idaho should not be participating in that transformation at any level or for any reason, including a federal lawsuit.
Amen.
If I am to understand this rule, it is predicated upon the situation of a person who believes his or her gender doesn't match the sex stated on his or her birth certificate. Hence, the person is allowed to change verifiable facts documented on said certificate. Moreover, the fact that that certificate has been changed will be hidden from the public, from law enforcement, from medical providers, from someone who may be the victim of a crime perpetrated by that person, who at the time of the crime was documented as being of a different sex. And later, in other words, this rule could be misused by a criminal endeavoring to cover up his or her identity.
Right.
Consider the following examples of people identifying as other than they were born. There are now adults who are convinced that they are not adults at all. In their minds, they are small children. There is a story. The next thing. So are we going to write rules that allow people to change their birth certificates to reflect the new birth date? Am I out of time? Okay. And there are more. Not to mention there are people who think they're animals. Are we going to accept AKC registration instead of birth certificates?
Robert White.
Robert White from Idaho, Idaho. One of the things that really concerns me is going back to the judicial system, especially juvenile halls when we're talking about kids. We have a school system that's pushing confusion onto our kids, and we see this all over the country happening, this agenda. And so if some boy or some girl says I'm something else, they get singled out, and then they have to go and see a psychologist that pushes stuff. Now, one of the things that really concerns me is we have a juvenile justice system, and we have a young boy that's confused. He has to go to a juvenile system with the girls, and a lot of times, because I've had parents that were involved with the juvenile system, they become predators. And now we're going to be endangering other people because of this. And also too is from a legal standpoint for the sheriffs and police officers, is they have to be able to track people and track crimes, and they won't be able to do this. Thank you.
Roger Berry.
Good morning, my name is Roger Berry. I live in Blanchard, Idaho. The goalposts are never static. They're arbitrary to begin with, and we're never allowed to reach them. It's never enough. We're never enlightened or woke enough to say, okay, We're there, now people can figure out the rest on their own. There are only two genders, male and female, and you developed in the womb to which those you are. Are there more than two genders of deer? Are there more than two genders of horses or chimpanzees? No. There are only two genders of Homo sapiens also. The two genders have worked very well for a long, long time, and they are validated in science unless you believe feelings are more important than science. If you put your hand inside your shirt and tell a psychiatrist you are Napoleon, the psychiatrist will have you lay down on the couch and he or she will start helping you understand who you are in actuality. Tell a psychiatrist that you're a man in a woman's body and you're just as likely to be told to lay down on the couch. And if you say the right words, the psychiatrist, instead of helping you come back to who you really are, he or she will actually confuse you further by starting to transition you into something you are not. That's not so much the person's fault for being confused. It's the failure of the medical community and of those people who cultivate the confusion with politics and even the court system. That is truly a sickness, a societal sickness. Babies and children are the most innocent, vulnerable, and dependent members of society. They must be protected and excluded from societal sickness. They are already confused, and for their parents and society to twist and confuse them and even physically change them is vile. It's repugnant beyond measure. There should be a law to keep people from transgendering a child, no differently than we have laws against child molest, because that's what it is. It's abuse. Stop it. I read recently that Ben Carson said, big hairy men are trying to get into women's shelters. That's disgusting. Why would we do that? And if you can just say who you are, what you want to be, why should anybody else believe that or go along with it? Just because they have an opinion doesn't mean you have to validate who they are. And that's what this law does. It validates feelings, and it expects us to enable them to have those feelings.
Yep.
Thank you.
Carol Goodman. Sorry.
Carol Goodman of Post Falls, Goodman. When I heard about this, I went back through some, Yes. I went back and found an article that I had recently read by a gentleman who had served 20 years in the military and suffered PTSD. During this period of mental health issues, he decided he was a woman. And he has now transitioned back. He has gotten help. But he says, I quote, "I should have been treated. Instead, at every step, doctors, judges, and advocacy groups indulged my fiction." He now is a counselor for others who are confused and has been able to help a good many number of people. And they all say the same thing. Why didn't anybody help me? Why did everybody just go along with this? In conclusion, he says in the last paragraph that what he really needed was help. Instead, what he got was he was encouraged in his gender dysphoria and told that it was natural, when what he really needed was to be seeking therapy. We need to start helping these people and not buying into their fantasy and encouraging them to live out this fantasy. That's why they're committing suicides. They need help. They don't need us buying into the fantasy. And that's what this will do. And I will